Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today we find ourselves back in the basement. And in this video, we are going to finalize this floor, be 100% done with it. As you guys saw in the first scene, I was prepping the floor because today we're going to be putting epoxy in the joints. Before I show you the epoxy, let me show you what I mean when I say I prepped the floor. So I went along all the edges, scraping out any extra dirt. I was using my little M18 vacuum to get all the dirt out of these joints, especially that purple styrofoam. It's pretty much this, but purple, the little one. It's little pieces that I use to make these joints. If that was in there and I put the epoxy in that joint, it might float to the top and that won't look good. So I was gonna color it gray to match the floor, but as you guys see here, there's already a couple of different shades of gray on this floor. To get another shade in that joint is gonna look bad. But if you guys saw in my other video where I put the drain and I used epoxy, I didn't use any tint or coloring for the epoxy. So I decided just to match that, and I'm just gonna put regular 2x1 epoxy with no coloring. And this is what we're gonna be using. I hope this is enough. I don't know if it's gonna be enough, but I got this Total Boat epoxy. I got extra jugs just in case, because I'm not sure how I'm gonna be mixing this. I'm gonna be doing a little bit at a time and using syringes like so to get inside that little crevice. I also got this syringe. I got this syringe because you can see that little point right there. It's not focusing, but you see that little point? This is what dentists use to get into your teeth and fill in whatever they need to fill, whatever they do. If I need to get a better flow, I'll just cut this point off, making the hole a little bit bigger, because this hole is pretty tiny. So no harm, no foul on that. So I got a couple of those syringes. I have this, I got those jugs. We're good. I also have this to get the mix very thorough. So yeah, I wanted to just show this floor one more time. And if you guys saw the last videos, you guys know I do not recommend what I did, which was 4 different pours. And this is why. You can see all the different shades because these were all poured on different times, but I'm over it. You know, look at that floor over there. That doesn't look good. I don't know what happened here, but it is what it is. It's a basement. I always wanted to put this kind of floor in a kitchen for some reason, like an industrial style kitchen. But the way that this thing takes abuse, I don't think I'm gonna use it ever anywhere else. At work, we use this a lot in commercial spaces, but I'm gonna leave it for the commercial space, and in the future, I won't be using this floor. And if I ever do use it, I'm gonna probably paint it with epoxy, a color to epoxy, so, you know, it'll be a color instead of this gray. So I've never done this before as far as using a syringe to put the epoxy, so I'm gonna be doing a little bit at a time, using the syringe from that side of the floor, because over here behind me where the radiator was, it got a little wet, as you guys saw. So I wanted to give that a chance to dry and just start my way from over there, coming to this wall. So let's get this done. So I literally just finished pouring the first cup. So it's looking pretty good. That little bit covered up to this point, which is pretty perfect. Everything was going really well. Everything's going really well. This syringe is doing the job perfectly, and it's going in with no hiccups. This is gonna be a sore spot. You're gonna see that a lot, but it's all right. It's only like about 2 places that this blew out like this, and like I said, the floor is all damaged and not looking how I want it to look, but we're okay. I kind of like using this stuff. I really like using the epoxy. It's growing on me. I'm gonna see if I can find other projects where I could use it the way I've been using it, unconventional. So we got up to literally this point, but when I start pouring here, it starts to go back this way like water, but some of it is holding on. Like over here, you could see that is on the top. It's pretty flush on top. There's a bit of a bubble, and as it cures and heats up, it might sink down. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna go upstairs, I'm gonna get a torch, maybe torch a couple of spots so the bubbles could come up, and let this cure and see where it's at, because I would hate to continue and then this side end up being bad. Maybe I missed something. So I'm gonna let this cure. I'll show you guys as soon as this is hardened. Well, I tried to make a bigger pour, and as you can see, this stuff reacted quick. It got hard before I was even able to use it. It's heating up a lot. I'm gonna take this outside so it can cool off. Don't want to set anything on fire, but I got this whole side done. The rest of this one a little bit over here, and I stopped right at the corner there. So next time I'm just gonna do the 1. So 1 over here, 1 and 1. I'm not gonna do 2 and 2 because this stuff, I guess being in a small container like this, heated up very quickly, especially this room. This room that I'm in is a bit hot. Not a bit, it's pretty hot in here. So I'm just gonna have to do a little bit at a time. My first pour was still in the curing process. I guess, I don't know why it was still curing, but I gave it about like a half an hour and it was still like, you know, moist. So let's throw this out and start all over. all the epoxy is installed or applied. I don't know. So everything is put in. As you guys can see, remember, if you guys remember in the earlier videos, this part cracked up. It looks good. There's a piece of foam in there, and I decided to leave it in there. I actually genuinely like how the epoxy reflects what's below it. So I don't know if the camera's gonna do it justice, but as soon as all of this cures, I'm gonna see if I could get the camera to focus on the bottom of the epoxy, because it looks pretty cool. It looks like the Grand Canyon kinda, but it's preserved with epoxy. I kind of messed up over here and I put too much heat, and it's already cured, and I think it's because of the heat, but it is what it is. That's under a cabinet, and that is the least of our worries compared to how this floor came out. So I am going to let this cure for 24 hours, and there is a possibility that I'm going to have to put a second coat, because as it cures, I believe it shrinks because of how thick this is, which is about 1/2 of an inch. So it's gonna cure and maybe shrink 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch. So we're just gonna have to wait till that happens. So I'll show you guys that update in 24 hours. It's the next day, and the epoxy has fully cured, and it did shrink like I mentioned earlier in the video, but I'm not gonna put a second coat on it. I'm just gonna leave it the way that it is, because it's not that bad. As long as that crevice is filled with epoxy, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, a little divot or whatever it is. So let me show you the results. If you look here, the gap is pretty big, and it covered really well. This is where the self-level blew out, so it did come out. I wanted to show you guys how it looks deep inside, but now that it's cured, it's not that transparent. But yeah. Here is where all the self-levels join together. As you can see, this self-level is higher than this one. This self-level is higher than this one. This one's pretty flat. These two are pretty flat. And this is why I don't recommend doing the pour the way that I did. But this is where the joints join together, and it came out pretty good. Even with the height difference, it worked out. And that's all that matters, man. Also here, where the self-level gave out, it was able to be filled. This crack doesn't move anymore. Before I put the epoxy, this was able to move, and I showed it in another video. But now, because the epoxy has hardened, that's not moving anymore, which is a positive. So this project was pretty simple, straight to the point. The syringes worked perfectly. If you guys have to go into a little crevice, I truly recommend you use that syringe. I'll leave a link in the description. As for the next video, we are going to be sheetrocking this and this. I have to cut this higher though, because that's not 2 feet. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm gonna cut that to 2 feet, put the sheetrock there, put the sheetrock here. And finally, today is Monday. On Sunday, a taper will be coming to tape this back wall and this wall over here. And we could start moving forward with this. So I hope you guys learned something new. And if you did, you can show me by giving me a like. If you have any comments or questions, leave it in the comments down below. And if you want to see this room about to be done, consider subscribing. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. Thanks.